everyone. In this video, I'll make an attempt to explain the poem Stopping by the Woods on a Snowy Evening, written by Robert Frost. Robert Frost is one of the significant American poets. One of the important themes in his poetry is to depict the beauty of nature. In literature, nature and seasons of nature are often used to explain the themes of life and death. In this poem also, same thing is reflected. So what we will do now, that we will read the poem and try to understand some of the major themes or issues which are discussed in the poem. One important theme in this poem, a philosophical question which is being raised here, that is a contradictory or a dilemma an individual faces when it comes to call of nature and call of duties in his personal life. So the same question is elaborated with an incident which is being narrated in this poem, where a person, the speaker in the poem, he is traveling on his horseback and he goes to a beautiful forest or woods. So woods refer to forests, and it is the time of winter and the forest is filling with snow and it is the time of evening. And what are the thoughts which comes into his mind is narrated throughout the poem, and these thoughts are very significant to understand the question which was raised in the beginning, that is to give to the call of nature or to give oneself to the call of duties in our personal life. So let's read the poem first and then we will understand it line by line. Whose woods these are, I think I know. His house is in the village though. He will not see me stopping here to watch his woods fill up with snow. My little horse must think it queer to stop without a farmhouse near. Between the woods and frozen lake, the darkest evening of the year. He gives his harness bells a shake to ask if there is some mistake. The only other sound is the sweep of easy wind and downy flake. The woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep, and miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep. Okay, we'll try to understand the poem line by line. So in the very first line, the speaker, he raises a question. So we know the situation. He is traveling on his horse. He has entered into beautiful woods, forests. And now the very first question which comes into his mind, as I have already explained, the entire poem is a kind of thought process which goes on in the mind of the speaker. Whose woods these are? As you can see, there is a question in the very first part of the poem. Whose woods these are? The moment he looks into these beautiful woods, ಆ ಕಾಡನ್ನು, ಆ ದಟ್ಟವಾದ ಅರಣ್ಯವನ್ನು, ಸುಂದರವಾದ ಅರಣ್ಯವನ್ನು ನೋಡಿದಾಗ ಅವನ ಮನಸ್ಸಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಬಂದಂಥ ಮೊದಲನೇ ವಿಷಯ ಒಂದು ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆ. ಆ ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆ ಏನು? whose woods these are? ಈ ಕಾಡು ಯಾರಿಗೆ ಸೇರಿದ್ದು? ಈ ಕಾಡಿನ ಒಡೆಯ ಯಾರು? Who is the master? Who is the owner? Who is the landlord of this forest? Whose woods these are? And in the next part of the same sentence, he gives the answer, I think I know. I know who is the owner of this particular woods. He tells that he knows who is the owner, though he does not make it clear for us who exactly is that person. But he tells us very clearly that he knows who is the owner. Whose woods these are, and I think I know who is the owner. ಈ ಕಾಡು ಯಾರಿಗೆ ಸೇರಿದ್ದು ಅನ್ನೋ ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆಗೆ ಆತ ಉತ್ತರವನ್ನು ಕೊಡ್ತಾನೆ. ಏನಂತ ಅಂದರೆ, ಇದರ ಒಡೆಯ ಯಾರು ಅನ್ನುವುದು ನನಗೆ ತಿಳಿದಿದೆ ಅನ್ನೋದು ಮೊದಲನೇ ಸಾಲಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಅರ್ಥ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಬೇಕು. ಸೊ ಲೆಟ್ ಮಿ ರೀಡ್ ದ ಲೈನ್ ಅಗೈನ್. ದ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಲೈನ್, whose woods these are, I think I know. So he knows who is the owner. His house, here his refers to the owner of the woods. His house is in the village though. So he makes it clear again for the readers that the owner, his house is in the village. So it is clear that the owner does not stay in these woods. So he stays in a village nearby. So he is far from this place now. So the narrator is safe, the speaker is safe, because even though if he tries to trespass and enter into the woods, he will not be caught by the owner. No one will be able to stop him. His house, owner's house is in the village though. ಅವನ ಮನೆ, ಆ ಒಡೆಯವನ ಮನೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿಯೇ ಹತ್ತಿರದ ಒಂದು ಹಳ್ಳಿಯಲ್ಲಿದೆ. So he is not physically present here at this point of time. So because his house is in the village, ಅವನ ಮನೆ ದೂರದ ಹಳ್ಳಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಇರೋದ್ರಿಂದ, he will not see me stopping here. He refers to again the owner of the woods. He will not see me stopping here. So it is clear he will not be able to see me that I have stopped here and I am entering into his woods and I want to enjoy the beauty of his woods. So he will not see me stopping here. ನಾನು ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನಿಂತಿರುವುದು ಅವನ ಗಮನಕ್ಕೆ ಬರುವುದಕ್ಕೆ ಸಾಧ್ಯ ಇಲ್ಲ. And why I am stopping here? ನಾನು ಯಾಕೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನಿಲ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ? Because I want to watch his woods. So he makes it very much clear that the owner of the woods is someone else. So I want to watch his woods fill up with snow. So this line is very much significant, where we come to know that this is the season of winter. And you must also bring in the picture of some Mediterranean coniferous forests, where you see snow falling and you see cold weather. Such is the atmosphere of woods which is depicted in this particular poem. So he will not see me stopping here, the owner will not see me stopping here, and I want to watch his woods fill up with snow. So this is what I want to do at this point of time. I simply want to stand here and enjoy the tranquil atmosphere of the forest, and I want to watch his woods fill up with snow. ಈ ಇಡೀ ಅರಣ್ಯ ಸಂಜೆಯ ಸಮಯದಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಗೆ ಹಿಮದಿಂದ ಆವರಿತವಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನು ನಾನು ನೋಡಬೇಕು. ನಾನು ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನಿಂತರೂ ಕೂಡ ಸಮಸ್ಯೆ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಯಾಕೆಂದರೆ ಈ ಕಾಡಿನ ಒಡೆಯ ದೂರ ಎಲ್ಲೋ ಹಳ್ಳಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಇದ್ದಾನೆ. So then, as we know that he is traveling on a horse, so his only companion at this point of time while traveling is his little horse. So he tells, my little horse must think it queer to stop without a farmhouse near. So read those two lines together to make some sense out of it. My little horse must think it queer. My little horse, it must think that what I am doing is queer. Here queer refers to something strange, something unusual. ನನ್ನ ಕುದುರೆ ಈ ರೀತಿ ಆಲೋಚನೆ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು. ನನ್ನ ಈ ಒಂದು ನಿರ್ಧಾರದಿಂದ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನಿಂತುಕೊಂಡು ಸಂಜೆಯ ಸಮಯದಲ್ಲಿ ಕಾಡಿನ ಮಧ್ಯೆ ನಿಂತಿರೋದ್ರಿಂದ, ಮೈ ಲಿಟಲ್ ಹಾರ್ಸ್, ನನ್ನ ಕುದುರೆ, ಮಸ್ಟ್ ಥಿಂಕ್ ದಟ್ ವಾಟ್ ಐ ಆಮ್ ಡೂಯಿಂಗ್ ಈಸ್ ವೆರಿ ಸ್ಟ್ರೇಂಜ್, ವಾಟ್ ಐ ಆಮ್ ಡೂಯಿಂಗ್ ಈಸ್ ವೆರಿ ಅನ್ಯೂಶುವಲ್. ಈತ ಮಾಡುತ್ತಿರುವುದು ಮೇ ಬಿ ಇದು ಅಸಹಜವಾದದ್ದು ಅಂತ ನನ್ನ ಕುದುರೆ ಆಲೋಚನೆ ಮಾಡಬಹುದು. ಸೊ ಹಿಯರ್ all of a sudden you see a shift. The thought process which is going on in his mind now is trying to explain what could be the thought process in the mind of the horse. Or we can raise this question, is it the same thought process which is going on in his mind also? ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆ ಏನು ಅಂದರೆ, ಇದು ಕುದುರೆ ಆಲೋಚನೆ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದೆಯೋ ಅಥವಾ ಇವನ ಮನಸ್ಸಿನಲ್ಲೂ ಅದೇ ಆಲೋಚನೆ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇದೆಯೋ? ಬಟ್ ಈ ಈಸ್ ಪುಟಿಂಗ್ this particular thought as if it is said by the horse. My little horse must think it queer. ನನ್ನ ಕುದುರೆಗೆ ಇದು ಭಾಳ ಅಸಹಜ ಅನ್ನಿಸ್ಬೋದು. ಯಾಕೆ ಅಂದರೆ, we have stopped here to stop without a farmhouse near. The place where we have stopped, you cannot find any farmhouse or any kind of dwelling ನಿಯರ್. ಅದರ ಅರ್ಥ ಏನು? ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವುದೇ ಹತ್ತಿರದಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವುದೇ ಮನೆ, ಯಾವುದೇ ವಾಸಸ್ಥಳ ಅಥವಾ ಯಾವುದೇ ಜನರ ಒಂದು ಸುಳಿವು ಕೂಡ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಇರದೇ ಇರೋದ್ರಿಂದ ಈ ಸಮಯದಲ್ಲಿ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನಿಲ್ಲುವುದು ಬಹಳ ಅಸಹಜ. ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ವೆರಿ, ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಕ್ವೇರ್ ಈಸ್ ಅನ್ಯೂಶುವಲ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಸ್ಟ್ರೇಂಜ್, ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಇಟ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ಸಜೆಸ್ಟ್ ದಟ್ ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ವೆರಿ ಡೇಂಜರಸ್ to stop here for a long time, because where you are stopped, ನೀವು ನಿಂತಿರೋ ಜಾಗ ಹೇಗಿದೆ, ಬಿಟ್ವೀನ್ ದ woods. ಸೊ ಯು ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಎಂಟರ್ಡ್ ದ woods, ಡೀಪ್ ಫಾರೆಸ್ಟ್, ಒಂದು ಗಾಢವಾದ ಒಂದು ಕಾಡಿಗೆ ನೀವು ಒಳಗೆ ಹೋಗಿದ್ದೀರಿ. ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ವಾಟ್ ಯು ಸಿ ದೇರ್, ಫ್ರೋಸನ್ ಲೇಕ್. ಸೊ ಆಸ್ ಐ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಆಲ್ರೆಡಿ ಸೆಡ್, ದಿಸ್ ಈಸ್ ಅ Mediterranean forest where you can see the land is getting frozen because of snow is falling continuously. And it is a very dangerous thing for a traveler to stay at that point of time. and it is the darkest evening of the year. And the narrator, the speaker says, the time is darkest evening of the year. It is getting dark. ಕತ್ತಲು ಆವರಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. ಮೇ ಬಿ ಇಡೀ ವರ್ಷದಲ್ಲೇ ಇಂದೇ ಬಹಳ ಕತ್ತಲು, ಈ ದಿನವೇ ಬಹಳ ಕತ್ತಲು ಅನ್ನೋ ಒಂದು ಭಾವನೆ ಆ ಸ್ಪೀಕರ್ ಮನಸ್ಸಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ದ ಡಾರ್ಕೆಸ್ಟ್ ಈವ್ನಿಂಗ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ಇಯರ್. ಸೊ ಇನ್ ದ ಸೆಕೆಂಡ್ ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾನ್ಸಾ ವಾಟ್ ವಿ ಅಂಡರ್ಸ್ಟುಡ್, ದ ಲಿಟಲ್ ಹಾರ್ಸ್, it thinks that it is very strange to stop here because there is no farmhouse near. You cannot see any living creature over here, and it is a frozen lake you can see over there. ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಹಿಮಗಟ್ಟುತ್ತಿರುವ ನದಿ ಕಾಣ್ತಾ ಇದೆ, and it is the darkest evening of the year. ಕತ್ತಲು ಆವರಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. So what happens later? So the narrator says, he gives, here he refers to the horse, his little horse. He gives his harness bells a shake to ask if there is some mistake. So the next stanza, where the narrator tells how his horse tried to bring him back towards reality. Because he has lost in the beauty of forest. He has lost in his own thoughts about who is the owner, where is his house, no one will be able to stop me. All these thoughts are going on in his mind. So he has forgotten the reality that it is getting dark and he has to move on. He has to move on. This is very important. ಅವನು ತನ್ನ ಪ್ರಯಾಣವನ್ನು ಮುಂದುವರಿಸಬೇಕು. ಆದರೆ ಆ ವಾಸ್ತವತೆಗೆ ವಾಪಸ್ಸು ಕರ್ಕೊಂಬಂದಿದ್ದು ಯಾರು? ಆತನ ಕುದುರೆ. ಯಾವ ರೀತಿ ಮಾಡ್ತು ಇದು? ದೀಸ್ ಆರ್ ವೆರಿ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್ ಲೈನ್ಸ್. ಹೀ ಗಿವ್ಸ್, ದ ಹಾರ್ಸ್ ಗಿವ್ಸ್ ಹಿಸ್ ಹಾರ್ನೆಸ್ ಬೆಲ್ಸ್. ಹಾರ್ನೆಸ್ ಬೆಲ್ಸ್, ಬೆಲ್ಸ್ ವಿಚ್ ಆರ್ ಟೈಟ್ ಟು ದ ನೆಕ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ಹಾರ್ಸ್. ಆ ಕುದುರೆಯ ಒಂದು ಲಾಳಕ್ಕೆ ಅಥವಾ ಕುತ್ತಿಗೆ ಕಟ್ಟಿರುವಂತಹ ಆ ಬೆಲ್ಗಳು, ಗಂಟೆಗಳು, ಅವುಗಳನ್ನು ಶಬ್ದವನ್ನು ಮಾಡಿ ಆ ಕುದುರೆ ಒಂದು ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆಯನ್ನು ಕೇಳುತ್ತೆ ನರೇಟರ್ಗೆ. ಏನು? ಟು ಆಸ್ಕ್ ಇಫ್ ದೇರ್ ಇಸ್ ಸಮ್ ಮಿಸ್ಟೇಕ್. ವೈ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಯು ಸ್ಟಾಪ್ಡ್? ಯಾಕೆ ನಿಂತ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ಯಾ? ಏನಾದರೂ ಸಮಸ್ಯೆ? ಸೊ ಹಿ ಬ್ರಿಂಗ್ಸ್ ಬ್ಯಾಕ್ ದ ನರೇಟರ್ ಟು ದ ರಿಯಾಲಿಟಿ ವೆರಿ ಸೂನ್. ಎಸ್, ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಹೌ ದಟ್ ಹಾರ್ಸ್ ಕಮ್ಯುನಿಕೇಟ್ಸ್ ವಿತ್ ದ ನರೇಟರ್? ಬೈ ಶೇಕಿಂಗ್ ಹಾರ್ನೆಸ್ ಬೆಲ್ಸ್. ಆ ಶಬ್ದವನ್ನು, ಗಂಟೆಯ ಶಬ್ದವನ್ನು ಮಾಡಿ ಅವನಿಗೆ ಮತ್ತೆ ಆ ವಾಸ್ತವತೆ ಕಡೆಗೆ ಎಳೆಯುತ್ತೆ ಆ ಕುದುರೆ. ಟು ಆಸ್ಕ್ ಇಫ್ ದೇರ್ ಈಸ್ ಸಮ್ ಮಿಸ್ಟೇಕ್. ಇಫ್ ದೇರ್ ಈಸ್ ಸಮ್ ಮಿಸ್ಟೇಕ್, ವೈ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಯು ಸ್ಟಾಪ್ಡ್? ಯು ಶುಡ್ ಮೂವ್ ಆನ್. You are not supposed to stop here for a long time. So what is the other sound which the speaker can hear apart from the bells of the horse? The only other sound is the sweep. Sweep here refers to blowing of easy wind. ಆ ಸಂಜೆಯ ಸಮಯದಲ್ಲಿ ಬೀಸುತ್ತಿರುವ ಗಾಳಿ, ಅದರ ಶಬ್ದ, and also the falling of downy flake. ಡೌನಿ ಫ್ಲೇಕ್, ದ ಫ್ಲೇಕ್, ದ ಸ್ನೋ ವಿಚ್ ಈಸ್ ಫಾಲಿಂಗ್ ಡೌನ್. ಆ ಸಮಯದಲ್ಲಿ ಕೇಳುತ್ತಿದ್ದ ಮತ್ತೊಂದು ಶಬ್ದ ಏನಂದರೆ ಕಾಡಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಬೀಸುತ್ತಿದ್ದಂಥ ಗಾಳಿ ಮತ್ತು ಬೀಳುತ್ತಿರುವ ಹಿಮದ ಒಂದು ಸಪ್ಪಳ. ಈ ಶಬ್ದವನ್ನು ಬಿಟ್ಟರೆ ಬೇರೆ ಯಾವುದೇ ರೀತಿಯ ಶಬ್ದ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕೇಳಿಸ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಸೊ ದ ಹಾರ್ಸ್ ಬ್ರಿಂಗ್ಸ್ ಬ್ಯಾಕ್ ದ ಸ್ಪೀಕರ್ ಟು ರಿಯಾಲಿಟಿ, to the present situation, where he must understand that it is very dangerous here to stop for a long time. It is getting dark and there is no farmhouse nearby, and they may end up themselves in a very dangerous situation. So the last paragraph, very beautiful, explained the dilemma which the speaker faces and what is the way in which he comes out of that dilemma. So the speaker says in the last paragraph, the woods are lovely, dark and deep. A very important line. He says the woods, the place where he is standing now, ಆ ಕಾಡು ಹೇಗಿದೆ ನೋಡಲಿಕ್ಕೆ? ಲವ್ಲಿ, ಬ್ಯೂಟಿಫುಲ್, ಫ್ಯಾಬ್ಯುಲಸ್, ವಂಡರ್ಫುಲ್, ಸುಂದರವಾಗಿದೆ. ಕಾಡು ಸುಂದರವಾಗಿದೆ. ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಡಾರ್ಕ್. The forest is dark, which means it is a dense forest. It is not just about the time of the day where it is getting dark. Here dark also refers to the dense forests, and the woods are deep. Deep, ಭಾಳ ಆಳವಾಗಿವೆ, ಗಾಢವಾಗಿದೆ ಅಂದರೆ ದೇರ್ ಈಸ್ ಸೋ ಮಚ್ ಲೆಫ್ಟ್ ಟು ಬಿ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ಲೋರ್ಡ್ ಇನ್ ದಟ್ woods. ಆ ಕಾಡಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಅವನು ಕಂಡುಕೊಳ್ಬಹುದಂಥ ಬಹಳಷ್ಟು ವಿಷಯಗಳಿದೆ. So many questions where he can find answers to those questions by staying in the forest. So the woods are lovely, the woods are dark, and very important, they are deep. There is so much to be explored. He would have wanted to stay there for some more time, maybe for a longer time, where he would have got some answers to the questions which are running in his mind. But, the word but is very important. The speaker, he says, I have promises to keep. I have promises to keep. I have explained in the beginning of the poem that the poem deals with the theme of call of nature versus call of duties in our lives. So here so far call of nature was so tempting for him. He wanted to stay there for a long time because the owner is not there. He wanted to explore the woods, but I have promises to keep. So promises here refers to the duties, the obligations, the commitments the speaker has to fulfill in his personal life. So here the speaker in the poem could be any of us, because we too find ourselves in the same situation, because we too have our own commitments, our own promises to fill in our lives. So he says the woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep. So the answer to his dilemma is to come back to the reality and understand that I have so many commitments to be fulfilled in my life. I have promises to keep, and I have miles to go before I sleep and miles to go before I sleep. So these two are wonderful lines where the same thing is repeated twice. Miles to go before I sleep. So miles to go. So here miles, distance. So it's not just about the road distance or physical distance he is suggesting. Miles to go before I sleep. He says I have got so many things to be done. The promises, the duties, obligations, and so many things to be achieved before I sleep. Here sleep is not just an act of resting for some time by sleeping. Here sleep refers to the death. As we can say, sleep is a temporary death or death is a permanent sleep. That is how things are contradictorily explained in many of the literary works. He says miles to go before I sleep and miles to go before I sleep. I have so many things to be done before I go to my permanent sleep, that is death, the final sleep. He says, I cannot rest, I cannot stop here. Yes, woods are lovely, dark and deep. It is very beautiful, it is very tempting. No, I cannot stand here for a long time. The answer is, I have so many things to be done before I rest permanently, before I sleep. So he says, and miles to go before I sleep and miles to go before I sleep. So in this way, we can try to analyze this poem, Stopping by the Woods on a Snowy Evening, written by Robert Frost. Thank you.